So the one thing that I have been saying over and over again about Splitgate 2 is that it is missing something. And that's oddly something that I said about X Defiant after it came out as well. Interestingly enough, Exclusive Ace or Ace put out a video with that exact title. Splitgate 2 is great, but it feels incomplete. In other words, it's missing something. And I completely agree, but I'm curious at what he says that something is. So let's find out. What's up, guys? My name is Ace.
What's up, guys? My name is Ace, and so far I've really been enjoying Splitgate 2, primarily the arena modes, but I've been dabbling with the Battle Royale as well. However, I can't help but notice that there are a good handful of items and features that are just missing from the game.
Oh,
and some of
he's going to be going very analytical with this. So he's going to be talking about, I'm assuming, gameplay features, which I will find interesting, but I'm going to add the overall things I think it's missing.
This was actually addressed in an AMA that was done recently, so we're going to be doing a bit of a recap of some of the highlights of that, while also sharing the rest of my list of features that I think are absolutely needed in Splitgate 2, as well as a list of features that I think would just be nice to have.
Okay.
Now, before we do that, I do want to make a correction on my armor video that I made recently, which I have taken down because this one value that I got slightly off ended up changing all of the values in the video. And since
did Ace do like analytical videos for Splitgate? I didn't know that.
A huge part of the video was sharing the armor values. It just felt wrong to leave that up. So here are the updated armor values. Yeah. This has been confirmed by a developer.
Yeah, so this is for the Battle Royale. This armor, this leveled up armor is insane.
The one value I got wrong is gray armor plates. Instead of being 25 HP per plate, which is what I found with my hand testing at least, which is obviously not perfect, it's actually 20. All of the multipliers are exactly the same as what I shared as you move up in the tiers. But obviously, since the first value was wrong, it does change all the other values. Everything else about that video was accurate as far as like upgrading your armor and everything. But this actually leads into the first big feature that I would love to see, and that is a practice range where you have the ability to test out everything that you would need to test.
See, that's not a big deal to me. That to me doesn't make the game feel incomplete.
Out, including things like armor. As of right now, we do have the ability to create our own maps, and I have created my own personal firing range area, but there's no ability to add armor plates in the game at the moment, and it's one of the reasons that I wasn't able to get perfectly accurate values for that video. Changes. And it turns out this is something that was actually addressed in the AMA, and when asked about a practice range, they mentioned the level design team just finished the block out for the practice range. There is some more work to do, but they are working on it. And then he went on to say this would be a certainty within the next few months. So it looks like it's not coming anytime in the
The time frame of updates that Splitgate drops is kind of weird. I need to move where my head is. Okay, that's better.
For near future, but it will be coming eventually. And I do find that to be a little bit unfortunate. Like, on one hand, it's great that they are working on it. On the other hand, though, especially since they don't display any like weapon stats or basically any stats on anything in the game, we are left to test it for ourselves, and that testing is quite limited because we don't have a proper practice range. And even with the custom maps we can make, we're still limited in what we can do there. But that actually segues nicely.
Yeah, so the custom games and custom maps and stuff, they compare it to Forge and Halo. The difference is there was, yeah, you can make your own maps, but you could also create like your own games, and you can basically add anything that was in Halo to a Forge map, whereas it's not quite there with Splitgate 2.
Into one of the items on my list that I would consider to be a nice to have but not necessary. This is a more robust stats display screen for weapons and other items in the game like perks and equipment as well, or at the very least some better descriptions for things. Same thing with attachments. A lot of the descriptions are quite vague, and therefore it leaves us to do the testing for ourselves, or in some cases just leaves us guessing entirely. And I get on one hand this does ensure that a meta doesn't become immediately established, because you can't just take the numbers from the game, type it into a spreadsheet, and basically have it do the math for you as far as which guns are the best, for instance. So maybe they don't want to display every single stat in the game, and I think that's fine.
I actually do think that that is better in a lot of circumstances, because when you have these exact precise numbers of how exactly a game works, and I know that's what Ace does, I completely understand that, but when you have these exact numbers, then everyone is just using the same gun and the same class and everything all the time. Like back in the day, especially with arena shooters, like when you'd pick up items off the ground or weapons off the ground, it was more of a, I don't want to say cat and mouse, but that's like what comes to my mind of like everyone's using their own thing. They use what they like, and it's not like just like this directed meta like we see with Warzone right now, which is I think the downside to loadouts in a game like that, which this game doesn't have. I do like the battle royale in this game, by the way.
Fine if that's the approach I want to take, but I think giving us a little bit more than what we've currently got would go a long way. Next up, circling back to what I consider to be a must-have for the game that I'm kind of amazed that they don't have in the game currently, and it's actually quite frustrating to not have. This is the ability to see your ping in-game. And ideally, it would be nice to see the ping of everybody that's in the lobby. But even if it's just seeing your own ping, this is an absolute bare minimum feature that every single online FPS game should be displaying for you, or have the option for you to display. But at the moment, at least on console, I'm not sure if it's different on PC, there is no method of seeing your ping in-game. And that to me is a major issue for an online FPS game. Another thing I would say borders between must-have and nice-to-have would be some kind of a combat record, a method of seeing your stats in-game.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that just feels incomplete. I don't think the leveling system in this game is fantastic. I don't think like the weapon leveling is okay. They said that they're adding in mastery, things like that. So yeah, just things like that don't feel complete.
And this is something that was also addressed in the AMA when asked about a match history system, or basically like a combat record that would save your stats. They mentioned the UI team is working on a career page now, which includes match history, I assume also player stats, but this also requires engineering work, so it's a bit a ways and not high on our priority list as things like mastery camos or ranked. But it's coming. In the meantime, you can check your stats and match history on Tracker
So I think the next big thing to come to the game is ranked and then mastery stuff.
So there is the ability to check your stats, but not in the game itself right now. And it's a bit unfortunate to once again see that this feature probably isn't coming anytime in the near future, at least, to the game itself. However, in this answer, they also address something that I was going to be bringing up in this video, and that is mastery camos and ranked play. I think especially for a game like this, it is super well suited to a ranked play system. It is quite a competitive game from the ground up, and I'm really hoping we get ranked play soon, because without it, I think for many players out there, they're going to end up falling off because they're just going to get kind of bored playing public matches over and over without being able to see stats or track improvement over time, or see where they stand in any way, at least not in-game. So ranked play, I think, is a must-have for a game like this, and this confirms that they are.
I am in the minority of opinions here, where I think that personally, the base game modes for this should just be ranked. Like when you go into just have a playlist, like make it quick play, and I think you should have just ranked SR rating right away, because there is skill-based matchmaking in this game. And I think just like Call of Duty, and I'm in the minority of this, I understand, if you're going to have skill-based matchmaking, you should just have a rank that goes with it immediately. And then any other playlist that doesn't have skill-based matchmaking has no rank associated with it. Keep it simple. That's personally what I think. Like
working on it, and it is a high priority. And then on top of that, for weapon camos, they actually expanded on this in a different response. And they mentioned that they're actively working on adding mastery camos to the game, and we can expect these in the next 2 to 4 weeks. So this is actually coming in the near future to the game. And I would consider this feature in a game like Splitgate 2 to be a nice to have rather than a must have, but it's always good to have something else to work toward in game. And
there needs to be something to grind for, whether that's ranked, whether that's mastery, whether that's a level, whether that's whatever it is. It's nice to have something to grind for in a game like this.
Actually earn through playtime rather than just having to spend your money to get cool cosmetics.
Exactly.
And on a similar note to that, another person asked them about the potential for player levels. Since, like I said, at the moment, all we have for progression is leveling up our factions and our weapons. And once you do that, for many players, it'll just be like hitting.
I think it's a pretty crappy leveling system, honestly.
A wall, and there's nothing else to work toward. In the AMA, they said we've seen requests for this, and they didn't plan to originally have it because they have weapon and faction levels, but they think it's a cool idea, and it's something they're exploring. So it seems like this is something we may see down the road in the future at some point, but it's not currently in development. Next up, another big thing that was addressed in the AMA that I was going to have on this list is kill cams. When asked about this, the response was, I love kill cams, but we are using UE5's new networking system called Iris, which does not currently support replays, and they chose to use it because it's better optimized, which means better hit registration and netcode, but it does.
Man, so the Call of Duty engine is so good for so many reasons, and so horrible for so many other reasons. And it's just like I feel like it needs to be remade more often. And like this just right here is like, okay, this Unreal Engine is dope for what they're using it for, but you can't have kill cams. So
it does mean that they can't have kill cams until Iris supports it, which they plan to.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to pull up. Splitgate to Steam numbers. 24-hour peak, 14,000. Not bad. All-time peak, 25,000. So it's dropped quite a bit. If we look at last week, it won't. There. So that is Summer Games Fest. Boom, big peak, up to 25,000. It's dropped down, gone back up a little bit with the weekend, and it's going to trend down. So I think we are going to see a steady decline here, just like we saw with X Defiant, which I don't know how you keep people coming back to this one. But again, this is just Steam. It's on consoles as well, so.
And then they said they felt this is a good trade-off because their top priority is having great gunplay. And I think that's great. I think it is much more important to have really solid netcode and hit registration. And for the most part, my experience has been pretty good in these areas. I have had some hitching and stuttering here or there, and I have had some matches that have felt like I've had a really high ping, but of course, I can't check that for myself. But outside of those cases, in general, the hit registration has been great, and I think that's a fair trade-off, and I do look forward to kill cams coming eventually to the game once Iris supports it. Next up, a very specific request that I have that isn't so much a quality of life feature.
So compared to Call of Duty, the 24-hour peak is 84,000. The players right now are 43,000. So obviously quite a bit more. If we look at the 1 year here, we had the peak of launch and then just boom for dance peak and then a steady decline once again. So this is going to drop as well, but just Call of Duty has a bigger base to begin with is essentially what you're looking at.
Feature, but more so something I would really like to see adjusted and balanced a little bit better is the pre-match timer for Battle Royale. This is one of my biggest frustrations with VR at the moment. Not only do you have your matchmaking time to find a game to begin with, once you actually get into the lobby, there's a 1 minute 30-second timer to select one of 3 factions. I don't think we need a minute and a half to select one of 3 options. At most, I think it should be like 15 seconds. And I know this might seem fairly minor, but it does get very frustrating when you're consistently getting hot drops in Battle Royale. And in some matches, you end up spending less time in the gameplay itself than you are sitting waiting for this timer to tick down between matches.
So this is a thing that was brought on by Marvel Rivals, actually, of all things. The incredibly fast lobby times are one of the reasons why that game has done so well. Just like press play, 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, boom, you're in a game. 5 seconds later, boom, you're playing the game, you're picking your character. 5 seconds later, you're killing someone. This is, I think, going to be one of the biggest things moving forward. And to be quite honest, the reason why Rivals can do it is because bots are in the game. Straight up. It immediately puts you in the game because if they don't find anyone else to match you with, they'll just throw a bot in there. So I think that is probably the future of games. It's just press play, you're in a game. Boom, boom, like right away. I think that's something that Marvel Rivals is going to change in the overall gaming industry. Because to play a battle royale, like Ace is saying, that you get in, you drop, hot drop, you die within 2 minutes, and then it takes 5 minutes to get into a game, your player base is just going to drop. Because I'll do that, and then I'll be like, I'm not waiting 5 minutes.
So I really want to see that adjusted. Next up, something I've seen a lot of people ask for, and I'm on board with this as well. If the player base can support it, I'd love to see an option for input-based crossplay if you choose. This is something I've seen requested from both sides of the aisle, whether that's controller players or mouse and keyboard players. For me, as a controller player, I would rather not play with mouse and keyboard players out there. For many mouse and keyboard players, they don't want to play against controller players that have aim assist. And the best solution here, again, if the player base can support it, is input-based crossplay.
It's not going to happen.
Now, after that, another thing I was surprised to find, especially once the game fully launched, I thought maybe this was just a beta thing. This is the ability to select specific arena modes rather than just arena quick play. At the moment, if I only want to play domination.
Yeah, so this is a player-based thing. I think as of right now, they have enough player base to support this, but as those numbers dwindle, like we just looked at, this won't work anymore.
Or I only want to play split ball, I can't do that. All I can play is arena quick play and hope that I get one of those modes and hope I don't get Firecracker, for instance.
I hate
And that is quite strange in my opinion, not having the ability to select the exact game mode that you want to play. I think having it as the default where it auto selects all of those is fine, but then you should be able to go in and alter your selections. So if I want to exclude a particular mode or I want to pick just one of those modes, I should have the ability to do that. I realize that will probably have an impact on matchmaking, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to have a worse impact on the player base if they're constantly ending up playing modes that they aren't interested in playing. And then finally, I've got a small handful of requests for custom games in particular. I realize these would probably not be high priority items since the majority of the player base won't be touching custom games much, if at all. But as somebody that likes to go in and do a whole lot of testing, especially since we don't have a practice range coming anytime in the super near future, it looks like. The first thing is the ability to save our custom game settings. It's great that they gave us a lot of options that we can adjust when in custom games, but it really sucks that every time you load up the game, you have to reset all those settings back to the way you want them. And then on top of that, as somebody that likes to test things but doesn't have a ton of time to grind the game, I would love the ability to use any items in custom games rather than being stuck with the items that you've unlocked in the main game. I know that one's probably a much bigger ask because I think they'd have to create an entirely separate loadout system for you to use in custom games versus regular matches. But it is something that is typically a standard when talking about custom games in an FPS game, so I would like to see that at some point. In either case, that is going to wrap it up for my overall list of things that I feel are just missing in Splitgate 2, and some of them are things that I think would be really nice to see, other things I think...
So here's the thing. Let's get real here for a second. Do we really think that this is going to be harsh? In 4 months from now, when a lot of these updates are coming out, do we think the game's still going to be relevant? And if it's not, what are they going to do to bring people back or get more people to play the game? Somehow, the finals has stayed relevant. It seems to be like the only other first-person shooter other than a Call of Duty or Battlefield that's been able to hold a player base and even grow. Can I see this game doing it? So when I played X Defiant, I was like, no, this game's not going to grow. Like I played it once. I'm like, there's no it factor. Now, Splitgate has a pretty decent battle royale. I think it's going to have a player base, but I don't see how it can grow any further. They've already played their entire hand with the battle royale. Unless they do... They are doing tournaments and they're doing things to promote it. They're putting a ton of money into promoting this game. I just don't... Maybe ranked play? Okay, that's not... But I don't see what that big draw is going to be. And a lot of the time, I don't even see that with Call of Duty right now. But Call of Duty is this freaking master of marketing. I don't know how they do it, but I don't see how they can pull it off. And yes, well, by the time they're getting these updates, Black Ops 7 will be out. And then 3 months after that, GTA 6 will be out. And then 9 months after that, a little less actually, we're going to have Modern Warfare 4. So like, you see the issue here? Do we all see the issue here? And don't get me wrong, I want Splitgate to succeed. Because right now I've enjoyed this more than playing the last Halo game. But then that next year, we're supposed to be getting another Halo game. So I don't know. I hope this game can succeed. I just don't see how it's possible. I really don't. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. This is a situation where I hope I'm wrong.